Hello everyone, that Manga Kid here to do a technically first impressions of Area 88 by Kaoru Shintani. Now as you can see, these are very old floppy like comic style editions of Area 88. As far as I know, this was never released in any other format. This is one of the three first manga to ever be brought to North America. This and My the Psychic Girl and The Legend of Kamui were the three first manga to be published legally in English, as far as I understand. So initially, Eclipse Comics and Viz Comics created these floppy style to keep with kind of the American comic style releases that were happening at the time. They figured that, an English audience wouldn't take to the tankobon format that we're used to today. So they flipped them to an English reading direction and published them in single chapter comic book issues to keep a more familiar style for North American readers to introduce them to manga. Before I get into what this is about, I just want to read. Oops, sorry. So this is from May 26th, 1987, his first issue. And here you can see all of the people involved with translating and making this a reality. There you go, that's clear enough. And then up here is just a fun little blurb just talking about bringing Japanese comics to North America, and you can tell that all the people involved in this project were very passionate about manga and excited to show it to a North American audience, which was so much fun. And honestly, if you can get your hands on these, I absolutely would. This is unfortunately never complete in English. We got about, I think, 42 of these issues. I only own 18 of them. But we got about 42 of them, and had they continued, there would have been over 100 because I believe there's 20-something volumes in Japan, and this is going like a chapter at a time. And if you think of typical shonen stuff, there's about 10 chapters in a tankobon volume. So, yeah. So, unfortunately, never finished in English. I hope with a lot of the classic stuff being reprinted and whatnot these days, that at one point or at some point Area 88 will get a reprint here in English, because so far from what I've read in these 18 issues, this is a great series. It's about this character here on the cover, whose name I believe is Shin, and I don't want to spoil kind of why he's there, but basically he is at this, it's a fictional Middle Eastern country that he is at this, he's a mercenary jet fighter at this base. So he's on this 3-year contract where he is basically stuck on this base being a mercenary, and he goes out every day on different missions to kill the opposition of the civil war that's going on in the country that he's in. And so he is Japanese, but he is not, this isn't set in Japan. But there's a lot of flashbacks, because you get not only things about his past, but also why he's there, and also the other mercenaries who come up onto the base. Most of them don't last very long, unfortunately, because it is war. But you get to learn the backstories of these other characters. You get to learn a little bit more about the civil war that's happening and why it's happening. It's very interesting. It's not like overly violent though for a war story. It has a lot of heart, which I really appreciate, because this is something that could just be, very blood and gore and guts and all about the fighting and whatever, but it doesn't feel like it is. It feels like it's about these characters and why war is so how war negatively impacts everybody involved. And it's just, it obviously was written in the 80s, and it hadn't been too long since there was a world war. Um and yeah, it's very interesting. And then the other thing too is that um Kaoru Shintani used to do, I think, assistant work on shoujo manga, so you can see that there's a very big shoujo influence on the art, which I find very interesting for such a clearly, you know, shonen jet fighter kind of series. Um, the art is spectacular, like the jets and everything, but even just the characters and their, it's just really really well done. Um, yeah, you see like the swooping hair and the big eyes, and uh, yeah, it's just really really entertaining. I flew through these 18 issues, and I'm gonna try and go back to some of my local comic book stores and see if I can get any more of this, because I'd love to own at least the 42 or whatever issues that exist. The other awesome thing about these is that in the back of most of them are like the question and answer section, because these were being released um, bi-weekly, I believe. Yes, bi-weekly. And they were asking the readers to send in questions and everything. So you're getting, questions and suggestions and all these things from the 80s of people who were just discovering manga for the first time, or who had never been able to legally read manga. But they were like watching bootleg copies of anime that were fan subbed and all this kind of stuff, because back in the 80s, like, this stuff just wasn't available the way it is today. And it's very fascinating to read. And then there's also a lot of articles written by various people who are, at this point in time, knowledgeable about manga and the history and stuff like that, writing about different various, like, kind of lifestyle things about Japan, and different. There's one, I don't remember which issue it is, but one of them has a whole article in the back about shoujo manga, um, or as they call it, women's comics. And it's funny because there's a whole section about talking about the Rose of Versailles and the influence of the Rose of Versailles and other women's comics in Japan. Um, and I had just finished reading The Rose of Versailles the other day, so it was very interesting to read about that in a perspective of something where it was closer to the time that it was actually released. And yeah, it was just very fascinating little history reading through this, not only just for the manga itself, but for all the articles and all of the different um, written pieces in the backs of these issues. Um, I really enjoyed it. I think that this is something that, if you're interested in manga, and your collection is like, you want kind of some more of those classic series, this is one to get. I already have the Psychic Girl in a different edition, than I don't have it in the floppy comic issues, but like I said, this one, as far as I know, this was the only way it was released, and unfortunately we don't have it complete, but it's so good. The backstories of the characters, the mystery behind why Shin is there and how he's gonna escape it, and yeah, it's just so good, and the art is fantastic. And I'm really really hoping that one day this will be completed in English, but who knows. um if you manage to get your hands on Area 88, I absolutely highly recommend it. If not just for, owning a piece of history, but for getting to read a lot of the opinions and things of folks back in the 80s, in regards to having manga come to North America. And yeah, these are just excellent, and I'm really really glad I got them. Yeah, and I look forward to reading more if I can get my hands on some more of these. So if you read Area 88, I would love to hear your thoughts. I know there's also a bit of an anime. I think it's a couple movies or OVAs or something like that. If you've watched that, I'd love to hear your opinions on that. But Other than that, if you have any other recommendations of some classic series that I can get in physical format, I'd love to hear those as well. Anyway, thank you for watching.